Hello, beautiful children. I am so excited to see you in my mind's eye. I'm wearing my very special shawl hat because I hope to wear it and see you in a while. So I hope you like my hat today. It's very funny with my t-shirt, isn't it? Okay. Today I am so excited because I have received the final back cover for the Siddur handout. And it has come from a very beautiful little boy who's growing bigger by the day called Reuben Morris. Hello, Reuben. Reuben is 8. He lives in Finchley and he goes to Saks Morasha JPS. Now, this is the amazing work that he has done that's going to be on the back page. I'm going to read you his poem because the back cover, I think I told you, is going to be about Hanukkah, and it is about Hanukkah. And this is Reuben's poem. What's really clever about Reuben's poem is that every line begins with the letter that spells out Hanukkah. Let's see if you can hear it. Hanukkah is about to start. Happiness will fill your heart. Antiochus was the king of the Yevanim. Nobody dared to even fight with him until the Maccabees came along, killed Antiochus because they were so strong. A nice Hanukkah with peace and joy. Happy Hanukkah for all to enjoy. So if I put that a bit closer, you might be able to just about see the poem cutting off a bit, and the picture of Reuben, and then the brachot that we say on Hanukkah. And we say 3 brachot on the first night, and then 2 brachot on the second night. And we've managed to fit in the Hebrew, the transliteration, and the translation. And for those of you like me who've got a big laminated copy, they're very useful to have for when we say the brachot with our beautiful menorah. Sorry, I'm not going to show you my menorah today. I'm sorry. Maybe another time. And on the back, the Matzor. I've got an extra paragraph there, but the Matzor. Okay. So, how am I going to tell you about Hanukkah? Well, I think it is time to... You ready? Ooh, rolling back the time. My hat's too high. And one more. Rolling back the time. And one more. Rolling back the time. And thinking and thinking and thinking. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a Hanukkah story with a flip the flap or lift the flap. And then I'm sure everybody has all sorts of extra wonderful, exciting pieces of information that you can add. I might add a few little bits here and there, and that will be our back page of the Siddur handout and Hanukkah. The story of Hanukkah. The celebration of Hanukkah began more than 2,500 years ago. The land of Israel was then called Judea. Judea was filled with fruit. What do you think that is? Trees and plentiful fields of wheat and corn. Jerusalem was Judea's busiest city. The Jewish people in Jerusalem had worked for many years to build a beautiful house of Hashem. What's that called? Can you see it? Temple, where they could worship. On holidays and on Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath, the Jewish people came to the temple to pray and to drink from the special gold kiddush cup. They also brought baskets of grapes, oranges and apples as gifts to God. They brought their first fruits. But the Jewish people of Judea were not free. They were ruled by a wicked king named Antiochus. King Antiochus hated them because they were faithful to their own God and followed the Jewish laws instead of his. He didn't allow them to keep Shabbat, he didn't allow them to keep Rosh Chodesh, he didn't allow them to keep Brit Milah. He stopped the daily sacrifices. So the king sent a messenger to ride his horse through Judea and deliver a message to the Jews. The message ordered them to stop praying to their God and stop practicing their religion. King Antiochus told the Jewish people to bow down and pray to a statue of himself. The king expected everyone to obey his order, but many people refused. King Antiochus got very angry. He sent his soldiers into the holy temple of Jerusalem. The soldiers stole the Kiddush cup and the Torah, the sacred scroll containing Jewish laws and teachings. They even broke the steps, the bimah, where a rabbi stands during prayer. One morning, the king's soldiers came to the village of Modi'in in Judah. The soldiers were very well trained, and each one wore I got the right page, helmet. They set up the statue of the king in the marketplace and ordered the Jews to bow down and pray to it. Matisyahu, the village leader, refused. He raised his sword and called on the Jewish people to fight alongside him. They surprised the king's soldiers by attacking and drove them away. Guerrillas warfare. That's not the animal gorilla, that's Guerilla, guerrilla warfare. Matisyahu then said, "Today we defeat the king's soldiers, but tomorrow more soldiers will come. We must leave Modi'in immediately and get ready to fight for our freedom." Everyone quickly packed up clothes, and this is what the book says they took. I don't know if they really took that, and some oranges and bread to eat. They followed Matisyahu into the mountains. Matisyahu spoke to one of his sons, Judah. "You are brave and strong," because Matisyahu was very old. "I know you can lead our people to defeat the evil king." Judah and his 4 brothers taught the people how to fight with whatever weapons they could find, including sticks, pitchforks, and bows and arrows. Judah and the rebels became known as the Maccabees, or the... what could that be? The Hammers, because they were strong and tough. The Maccabees were outnumbered, but they won many battles, raising his fist. The king yelled to his favourite general, "I order you to send..." What sort of animal is that? Elephants. To each battle. Surely the Jews cannot beat elephants. The king's soldiers marched into the mountains, but Judah and his rebels were ready for them with sticks and pitchforks, bows and... isn't that one? Bows and arrows. The Jewish people won every last battle. Even the elephants ran away. Judah found the general's sword. He kept it and used it in every other battle. The Jewish people fought their way back into Jerusalem. They freed the city from the king's cruel soldiers. The elephants. That's the page. Hope you can see it all. But the city was in ruins. The temple doors were burned. The Torah was destroyed. The Jewish people had to clean the temple and rebuild what was broken. Even the children helped. Craftspeople built a new bimah, new steps for the rabbi, and new doors for the temple. They made a new Kiddush cup. They also made a shiny new menorah. Actually, they made it out of zinc because they didn't have the beautiful type of menorah material, because the Greeks had made so much damage and taken everything. The 7-stepped lamp used to light the temple. So it's not our Chanukiah. The menorah had a different amount of lights. The people were very happy to have their temple back. Judah Maccabee wanted to celebrate. He asked his followers to light the flame of the menorah. They needed oil to light the flame, so the people searched everywhere. Now, children, they needed to have only the Kohanim, only the priests' special jars of freshly pressed and only a few drops each time from the olive oil. And they didn't have it because the Greeks, Antiochus's men, had destroyed all the olive oil jars. But the king's soldiers had crushed every jar of oil. Finally, they found one little jar. It held only enough oil to light the menorah for one day, and they had to go and make more oil, and it would take them 8 days to make more oil. But the flame of the menorah stayed lit for a full 8 days until new oil could be prepared. It was a miracle. Today, all over the world, Jewish families gather each year to celebrate Chanukah, a word that means dedication, because when they finished cleaning up the temple, it was the 25th day, Chanukah, Kuf Hey. They managed to dedicate it on the 25th. An additional candle is lit each night for 8 nights as people remember the brave Maccabees who fought against the king for their freedom. A 9th candle called the shamash is used to light the other 8 candles. During Hanukkah, the festival of lights, families retell the story of the Maccabees and the miracle of the little jar of oil that lasted 8 days. Children exchange presents, eat potato pancakes called latkes, also donuts called sufganiyot, and play games with a spinning top called a dreidel. The Hebrew letters Nun, Gimel, Hey, Shin on the dreidels stand for the words "a great miracle happened there." And in Israel, children, it's Nun, Gimel, Hey, Shin, Hey. Nes Gadol Hayam Po, because the miracle was in the land of Israel. Okay, rules for lighting the menorah. Before you can light your own Hanukkah menorah, and obviously you do it with mummies and daddies, maybe we watch our mummies and daddies do it, you have to know just what to do. So here's an outline of the most important rules. If you have any questions, ask wonderful Rabbi or your mummies and daddies. You use a nice clean menorah in order to fulfill the special commandment of Hidur mitzvah, making a mitzvah beautiful. The menorah should be put in a doorway opposite the mezuzah, or most of us put it in a window where it can be seen from the street. You can light with candles, I do, but oil is even better. Olive oil is the best because that's what they used in the Bet Mikdash. On the first night, you put one candle or oil and wick on the right side of the menorah. Each night, we add a new candle from the left. We always start lighting from the newest candle from left to right. The lights should all be the same height and in a straight row. The candles should be far enough apart so that you can see each one separately. We use a different candle to light the menorah, and that candle is called the shamash. After the other candles are lit, we put the shamash higher or lower in front of the other candles. You don't need to worry about it because the menorah is already made with the shamash not on the same level. So everyone will know that it is not one of the regular Chanukah lights. We do not use the light from the candles for anything. They are there for us to look and to see, but we are allowed to use the light from the shamash. The candles should be lit at the beginning of the night, either right before or right after Ma'ariv, the evening prayer. If this is not possible, they can be lit later. So there are 3 blessings on the first night. In our Siddur handout, we haven't got the word shell, but I think everybody will manage with that. The second bracha, she'asa nisim la'avotenu bayomim hahem bazman hazeh, and then the third bracha is the shechianu v'kimanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh. And the other 7 nights, we only say the first 2 blessings. Each night after the blessings, we sing Haneras Halalu and Ma'atzor. Many people sing certain psalms from Tehillim too. The candles must burn for at least half an hour. And we try not to work during the time the candles are burning, so not putting washing machines on and things like that if we don't have to at all. During that half an hour, we can just enjoy the time watching the Chanukah candles. On Friday evening, we light the Chanukah candles first, because otherwise it would be muktzah, wouldn't it? And then the Shabbat candles afterwards. We use bigger candles or more oil so that they will burn until half an hour into the night. And on Motzei Shabbat, the candles are lit when Shabbat is over. Right, okay. How about those Chanukah warriors? Can you see their names? Can you shout out their names for me, the Chanukah warriors? Well, Shimon, Yehuda, Elazar, Yochanan, and Yonatan, the Chanukah warriors. And unfortunately, after Chanukah, this family was not as wonderful as it was when it fought and won the war against the Greeks. Okay, tell me the miracle of Chanukah. What was the miracle of Chanukah? Do you remember from the story? The miracle of Chanukah was that all the jars of olive oil from the high priests were lost. They were smashed by the army who had come into the temple. So what could they do? Well, they hunted and hunted and hunted, and finally they found one little tiny pure jar of olive oil left. And that miracle of Chanukah was that it lasted for 8 days until they were able to make new oil. Now, I haven't explained this story. Yehudis had a sister called, Matisyahu had a sister called Yehudis, some people say, and she wanted to do her own type of fighting. And she was invited to a tent by one of the generals called Holofernes, and she gave him a lot to drink of wine, which made him, and she gave him a lot of cheese, which made him very thirsty. And then he wanted to have something to drink, so she gave him a lot of wine that made him very sleepy, and then she got rid of him. And that is all I'm going to say, so that it's not too freaky deaky, for the reception to year 2s. What was the story here? Well, we didn't have that in the lift the flap either. So we didn't have about Yehudis, and we didn't have about Hannah and her 7 sons. And again, I'm going to be careful not to be too freaky-deaky for the reception to year 2s, the 4 to 7s, but all I'm going to say is that Hannah had 7 sons, and Antiochus wanted everyone to bow down to him. That's another story like that coming up at another time, which we'll talk about. The terrible thing about bowing down to people, how silly is that? But Antiochus also used to carry idols on his rings, and so the Jewish people would not bow to Antiochus. And Hannah and all her 7 sons, even the littlest one, whom he said, look, I'll just drop a ring, just pick my ring up. But the little boy knew that the ring had an idol in it, and he could not bow to an idol. So the wicked Antiochus got rid of all the 7 sons, which is very cruel. Okay, what do we eat and when? Well, we know that this is about the 25th day of Kislev, when we have Hanukkah, and the 2 things that spring to mind are the donuts and the latkes that we eat. But lots of people have lots of different foods that contain oil that they also eat. Nes Gadol Haya Po, the dreidel in Israel, Nes Gadol Haya Sham, the dreidel in England and all the other places. Name the king and his idol. Well, I think we learned a bit of it, but not a lot of it. The yucky king was Antiochus, and the idol called Zeus he put in the temple. Now that's not the Zeus that's got all those funny books that I love reading, like the Cat in the Hat and all the rest of it. It's not that. It's an idol that awful, horrible, yucky Antiochus liked to put in the temple. That's terrible, to put an idol in our temple. How do we light the menorah? How do we light the menorah? Well, we know that the candles are from the right, but we keep adding a candle from the left. So we light from left to right. And finally, the dreidel. Let's see, I will read the rules and you might have your own. The custom of spinning the 4-sided top comes from the actions of Jewish children who were studying Torah, a forbidden practice under Antiochus, Greek king of the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC to 164 BC. When his soldiers would come to inspect whether anyone was studying Torah, the children would hide any learning materials and play games with their dreidels. So if there was a knock at the door, they would quickly hide and play dreidel. Nun, if it falls on the letter nun, no change. Gimel, take half. Sorry, Gimel, you take everything. Hey, you take half. Shin, you have to put in. So, if nun is facing up, the player does nothing. If Gimel is playing facing up, the player gets everything. I know this in sort of Yiddish German. Nun, nicht, nothing. Gimel, ganz, everything. Hey, half, you have to put in the pot. And Shin, stellan, put in, you have to put in. If the player is out of pieces, they are either out or may ask another player for a loan. What do you think you could play with? Well, some people are allowed to play with little pennies. I think chocolate coins are a pretty good thing to play with if they don't melt. Maybe chocolate raisins. It's up to mummies and daddies. Okay, fabulous. So let me see if there's anything else I can just pick up on that I didn't mention. So we know that the story of Hanukkah took place over 2,150 years ago. We know that the Greek king Antiochus, it started out almost harmless to begin with. Come and join our gyms, come and work out with us, come and be like us. You don't want a Brit, we don't have a Brit, you just be like us. Now, there were some people who actually thought, well, maybe we should copy them and be misyavnim. Maybe Hellenists, we should be like the Greeks, we should copy them. But a lot of people, thousands, decided that they could not possibly change their religion and become Greek. Some pretended, and they pretended very well. And the Greeks were ordering the Jews to sacrifice pigs and eat their meat, which obviously couldn't be done. And that's what Antiochus did. And that's when Matityahu said, Mila Hashem Eli. He killed the soldier who wanted a Jewish man who was willing to sacrifice a pig on the Mizbeach. Mila Hashem Eli, who is for Hashem come to me. And Maccabee, Mi kamocha be'elim Hashem, who among the powerful is like you, or the hammer that's banging. Or Matityahu Cohen ben Yochanan, that's the name, his name. So the Yehuda soldiers hid in caves and they attacked all the time, even though they didn't have any elephants and they only had pitchforks and cross and bows and arrows. But if Hashem, that was part of the blessing that Hashem gave us, that we would be able to be very few in number and overcome many, many people who want to bring us down. So that was the story. We mentioned that on the 25th day of Kislev, they were able to fix the temple as best that they could, although they didn't have all the beautiful special materials because they'd been stolen. And the miracle of Hanukkah was that they found a jar that would last for 8 days until they could make more olive oil. And of course, we say the prayers Hallel and Al Hanissim on Hanukkah because it's a time of praising and thanking Hashem for all Jews in all times, in all places. Well done. Okay, well, I think that we have really said quite a lot about Hanukkah, and I hope that you will enjoy Hanukkah wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Couple of things more. Hanukkah is not in the Torah. It's not mentioned as a festival in the Torah. There are hints. If you count 25 words into the Torah, you will get the word Or, light. Of course, Hanukkah is the festival of lights. And the Jewish people camped a lot in the desert before they reached the land of Israel. The 25th place, and the story of Hanukkah is about the Hashmonaim. This was the Hasmonean family, was Yehuda HaMaccabee. He was the Hasmonean dynasty. And so the 25th place that the Jews camped in the desert was called Hashmona, the Hashmonaim. Isn't that interesting? So that's another link to Hanukkah. Okay, well done children, and I hope to see you very soon.